Hi folks, welcome back to the workshop. Yoo-hoo! We're back for the guitar making channel. So last week you saw me carving this beautiful piece of 200-year-old walnut from Glastonbury. But that's not the whole story. So carving it is only the first step. Of course it needs to be sanded, but I'm going to be doing sanding on Saturday. Got quite a lot of tricks and tips to show you about sanding. But today I'm going to show you how to fit the pots. So because this top is now curved, these the pots and switches, they need to be fitted individually. So here's a pot. We'll call it a pot because that means that's potentiometer. A potentiometer. So there is going to be I'm going to do a stream all about electrics as well in a couple of weeks, so we're not going to get too hung up on that. But a volume control is the same size as a tone. That's the same thing really. We'll get into that, not today though. And the switch. So I'm going to use two of those and one of those, and they're going into here. So volume, tone, and a three-way toggle switch like a Gibson. So these fit on with the threaded part needs to go through the guitar obviously, and then we've got a nut and a washer to go on top. So if you remember when we routed this guitar, we only went to a nominal depth. So usually I leave, depending on how thick the cap is, it's usually about 15 mil or 18 mil. I would leave that much in there. So I go right down to the glue line and leave it normally. But this one doesn't have a separate cap. So I just left 15 mil or 18 mil, I can't remember exactly. I went down to a nominal safe depth. So what I've got to do now is fit the pots individually, and there's two parts to this. So the first part is, I'm going to use this round cutter here. See, it's like a fancy round cutter with a bearing on it, and I'm going to be making what we call the dishes. So I'm using a pattern here, and that's just a 28 mil hole. You can make it any size you want really, and I'm going to use that as a guide to make what we call the dishes. So this is how a guitar maker does the dishes.
Roland's online. We're
not so good at washing up.
Roland's watching.
Hi Roland, how's it looking? What do you think so far? So I'm just about to do the dishes, and then we do the dishes first on this side, and then we turn it over and we'll fit it from the other side. So this is all done with the router. So we've got router cam there, look. I've got a new toy as well. Let's show you this. This is my Stream Deck.
You didn't tell me.
I didn't tell Carol about this. So now I can do all sorts of things like that and that.
So can I.
So now we've both got control. Me and Carol have got control. So I'm not going to have to keep saying, can I have camera 2 please, Carol?
How can we both have control?
Because I can just do it like that.
Bother. But I can do this.
Yep. So there we go. All good fun, isn't it, folks? This is all for your benefit, obviously. We don't enjoy it at all. So yeah, I'm going to show you how we do the dishes, fit the pots from the back, and then I'll show you a little tip for sanding these dishes because that can be a pain. Right, so let's get started. By the way, if you've got any questions or anything as we go, then by all means just type them in the comments, ask. You guys are brilliant, you always ask great questions, so I really do appreciate that. There's always something that I forget to say, and then one of you guys chimes in with a brilliant question, and then it reminds me. So, brilliant, right. This is...
Roland says, he wanted a double neck 10-string bass though.
All right, I'll just see if I'll get my... I've got some
Pencil.
6-inch nails over there. We'll just hammer a nail onto it. It'll be fine. So this is a multi-purpose drilling guide. This is the one that I use for my dishes, and then I've got these 6 holes here. Those are for fitting the ferrules on the back for a string through body. So we drill these holes on the back, and the easiest way to get them all perfectly in a straight line is to have 6 holes that are already perfectly in a straight line. Use that as a drilling guide. And then there's different size ones for different jobs that I use. But we're interested in this bit at the end, which is just a 28mm hole. It doesn't have to be 28mm, it can be any size you want, really. So what I've got is these 3 holes, and because the top's curved, to get the nut and one flat spot. So you'll have seen dishes, you'll have seen this on maybe some of the carved top guitars. Now I'm going to show you how it's done. So we're going to use this router cutter. I'm going to just put it into the router right now. Swig of tea.
On mouse cam. That's exciting.
Is it?
Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, notice that came loose and then it goes tight again. So routers you have to undo twice. You have to undo it twice. It's kind of like a safety feature, I think, but it's just the way these collets work. And then if it doesn't come loose, you just give it a tap. Cutter comes out. So I put the round bottom one in. Let's give you a close-up of that cutter. Look at that. You know it's made by CMT if it's orange. They're good quality cutters. This one probably cost £35 or something like that. Not cheap. And I think I added the bearing myself. I don't think it came with a bearing. So I just found a size for size bearing. This one, for your information, it's got a 1/4 inch flat spot at the bottom and then a 1/4 inch radius on each edge. And it makes a nice little dish. It doesn't have to be exactly that size. Any kind of round bottom cutter will do. Finger tight and then tighten it up with a spanner. Not over tight. You should always use the spanner that comes with your router. Don't do what I do and use a normal spanner because you'll end up over tightening things and breaking it. That's why all my routers are gubbed. So then my router's ready. Now let's get the body ready. Clamp, pattern, body. Let's find where I can do this. Probably about there. So what I'm doing, if we go to the overhead cam, is I'm trying to line up the hole right in the centre of the hole. We could probably zoom in a bit on that, couldn't we?
You need to move the body in a bit though.
Yeah, you can see that anyway.
Bill Flood's asking, do you stock the dish router bits?
Nope, sorry Bill, we don't stock them. We have a very limited stock of router bits. I'm only stocking at the moment the essential ones and maybe 1 or 2 extras, but this is not available on the website yet. maybe I'll have a look for one. But mine in particular, I gave you the dimensions for, was made by CMT router cutters, just so that you know. I'm clamping this in place, nice and firm, and I'm gonna just give it a shugle to make sure it's nice and tight, because we really don't want this to move while we're working on it, do we? Brilliant. Sorry, what were you saying, Carol?
Well, they're having a few issues. They're taking it in turns. We're always having connectivity issues.
Connectivity issues.
Yeah. So it's occasionally saying.
Okay, shall we switch over then before I do anything else?
I think so, just in case.
Bear with us for 5 seconds then, folks. The screen will probably go black. Can you keep typing to them?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I think we're back. I'll just hang about a bit just to make sure.
I'll get off. I'll swap. Yeah, I'll swap now. It's good. All good?
All good?
Well, I'm good. Are you good?
Yeah.
Right, they're all good.
I'm good, brilliant.
Right.
Right, so I think if we can get a bit of that in as well, that'd be brilliant. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. Bring me router over. So everything's set up. Obviously, the bearing, if I just take that down, you can see the bearing at the bottom there.
Hold on, where are you?
The bearing is going to follow...
Camera 1.
Camera 2, please, Carol. The bearing there is going to follow the pattern. So it's really simple. All we need to know is how deep to go. So I'm going to say we're going to go 2.5 mil deep. 2.5 mil to 3 mil will do. So I take it down to touch the wood. There it hits the wood. And now I'm going to set, if I bring this camera up a bit, you'll see me be able to set this stop, I think. Right, so this is a stop. I'm going to bring that down to touch at the bottom there. Touching. And now I'm going to dial in. I've got to tell the router that that's 0. And I'm going to dial in my 2.5 mil. 2.5 mil. There. So what I've done effectively is I've set a 2.5 mil gap there. And that's how much it will let me plunge in. So you're not going to be able to see a lot through there, unfortunately. It's hard to see inside the hole. You're pretty much doing it blind, but it might be better to cut between that and camera 2, Carol, a couple of times. So I'm level with the wood. What I'm going to do is turn on, plunge in, lock it, and then I'm just going to draw a little circle. I have to turn it off and wait until it stops spinning before I raise it up. That is the difficult bit, to be honest, because you have to have a bit of patience. So let's do it. Health and safety, putting me finger in my hair and my goggles on. Let's do it.
Do you want it in camera?
Use whatever camera you think's best. We'll try the router cam to start off with.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I'm going to turn it on, plunge in, do my cut, wait till it stops spinning before I wave it about. That's the hard thing, all right? Raise it up. Beautiful. So if I take this off, you should see that little dish there. There's one done.
Hold on. Oh.
I'm just going to repeat on the other two now.
They're asking Roland if he's biting his nails. He's nervous. If Roland's nervous, is what they're saying.
Now I have to reset the depth individually for each one because they're all going to be slightly different, remember. So I need to repeat that whole operation now. Back to the, take it down to touch wood. I'm going to reset the depth because it will be slightly different there. Look, it's a millimetre different. You can see it there. It's a millimetre different. See the 0. So I'm going to reset it to 0 and then dial in 2.5 mil and repeat. Wait till it stops spinning. It's always worth having a visual check before you take it off. That looks pretty good. Doesn't need to be a huge dish. And then the last one. You'll notice that this one's on more of the curved area. It probably won't look round when it's finished, but that's normal. You sort of get a weird sort of like third phase of the moon sort of shape. Check it, looks good. Take it down to touch the wood. There, it's touching wood. Set the depth. 2.5 mil. You can go to 3 mil if you want. Probably better to stay on the safe side though, because you can always go a bit deeper, but you can't take it off. You can't put it back on, I should say. Check twice, cut once.
They're saying that.
Yeah, I'm going to get that on a macro so it goes in the comments. I'll press a button and it will just make a comment. Check twice, cut once. I'm afraid router cam's interfering with the router now. It won't let me go any deeper, so I'm going to have to move it. I've still got to do a bit of work on the old router cam. Maybe an even smaller camera. I'll try the camera there instead. So down to touch the wood. I'm double checking everything. And then turn on, plunge in. So notice that one's a slightly different shape, bit of a funny shape, but that's normal, we expect that. It's not that bad actually. Right. Let's show you how we sand those then next. So I made a little tool because they're really hard to find. So here's the one that I made. What this actually is, it's a little grinding wheel that you get for your Dremel. I've got one out to show you. Actually, that's another one that you can buy, like a rubber one. These are good. Either of these would be good. You want it about 20 mil in diameter. An inch is a bit big really. So they're really hard to find, these things are so small. So I'll show you how I made it. What I did was I used like a grindstone from a Dremel. You can buy these things really cheap and easy. I used a slightly bigger diameter, which is this grey one here. And what I did was I had an old, this is an old base from a sanding machine, and they've got these Velcro protection pads. So this is to protect your main pad off your sander. You get this extra bit of Velcro so that your pad doesn't disintegrate it'll be this bit that disintegrates, and you can replace it, thus saving yourself a lot of money for this bit. These bits are cheap. So what I did was I had an old one of these, and I cut a circle, and I just super glued it onto this bit. So it's just super glued on Velcro, and then I can use just ordinary Velcro sandpaper discs. So I cut out the circles and made myself a fantastic little circular sander there. And you can just cut new circles as you need them and replace them. Just rips off. Brilliant, eh? So I'll just do one for you. I don't think I need to bore you with doing them all. Carol's reminding me to wear a mask whilst you're sanding. Of course, there isn't one anywhere, is there? Carol, do you know where there is a mask? So I can't do it without a mask, can I? Masks in the car. Carol's got it, fresh one. Thanks, guys.
They're expensive.
I know, ridiculous.
10 each.
So, where was we? So a nice slow speed, and I'm going to hold this bit here. Obviously not the spinny bit. I'm going to hold it there. I'm just going to draw little circles like this. Look at that. And so obviously they'll be sanded again by hand. I'll just show you quickly what we do. I'm going to do a special on sanding, which sounds even more boring than the drilling one, but there are a few important things that I need to show you about sanding. But just quickly show you these sanding the dishes. With the grain or parallel to the centre line, I'm going to just sand like this to take out all those little scratches that I've just put in. I might turn it around and go the other way like this. And there we go. There's a finished dish. Absolutely beautiful. Hopefully you'll agree. Now the top's not sanded yet, it's still rough. Like I say, we're going to do that. I think I'm going to do that on Saturday. Still to come, we've got sanding. We've got that's going to include sanding wood and sanding the frets, sanding metal for the frets and that kind of thing. Sanding, I want to talk about leveling, so we're going to do that. And what else is there? So coming up, sanding, Oh yeah, gluing and clamping. So yeah, people are always asking me what kind of glue we use, and believe it or not, I counted up once in my cupboard 7 different types of super glue, just super glue. So you don't need 7 different types of super glue, obviously, but I'm going to take you through lots of the different types of glue that we do use. I'll take you through all those and show you all that kind of stuff. Sanding, gluing and clamping. So they're all the guitar techniques left to come. And there's also going to be one on soldering, which is important, so electrics. And I've got about 1 million other ideas for videos. So they're all in the list as well. And as most of you guys know, we've got a post on the forum, which is what would you like to see next? And if you guys have got any ideas what you'd like to see me do, then leave a comment or head to the website, guitarmaking.co.uk, where if you want to support us, you can become a supporter. We don't do Patreon or anything like that. The only real way you can support us is through our own website. I have considered, obviously lots of people have told me I should have a Patreon, but the thing is that Patreon could just close down at any time. They could be sued out of existence in the next month or so, if you've been watching the news. So I'm quite glad that we haven't gone down that route. What I have done is over the past 4 or 5 years, I've been building my online guitar making academy. So it's not just cobbled together for the lockdown. I've been building this for years, and we have build your own design and build your own electric and acoustic guitar. So you can start right from scratch with a blank piece of paper and design and build your own guitar. And if you don't believe that's possible, you're not alone. I didn't even know if it was possible, but it turns out that, yeah, with just a little bit of information, I think anybody can build guitars. So I've spent the last 15 or 20 years running build your own guitar courses where people have come to my little workshop here from all over the world. And workshop courses usually last 5 days or 8 days, depending on the course, or 12 or 13 days for an acoustic. And people have been coming here for years from all over the world and building their own guitars. But of course, with modern events and stuff that's going on at the moment, we're not actually allowed to run courses in the workshop. So the online stuff is all we've got at the moment. So I'm here, you know, giving it all away kind of for free, but I'm hoping that that we'll be rustling up some support. And what I'm hoping is that you guys will head over to the website and sign up as a supporter, and you get free plans and the whole list of essential tools and all that kind of stuff. Free access to the forums where you can ask any question you like, and we're all there trying to help you out. But if you want full access to the premium courses, then you need to become a premium member. That's for the full-on courses, and there's loads more coming. So that's that bit done. We've got a few questions before we finish up, and we'll do those now, shall we?
Yeah. So
questions.
Firstly, EP says, what grade grit did you just use to get rid of those little marks? I'm going to move to the close-up now.
So this was 80 grit I was using. You could use 120. 80 grit's just a little bit quicker. Obviously, if I use 80 grit, then I would sand with 120 and then 240. But we're not talking about sanding today, really. But yeah, it comes up all right, doesn't it? Absolutely gorgeous.
It's a bit smooth.
And there's still that's only just sanded roughly. Still a couple of sanded. What am I talking about finishing? I haven't finished yet.
No, you haven't.
I haven't done stage 2 yet of the routing. So now we've got our dishes done. Now we can fit our pots from the back. Notice this pot here, they all come with this little tang here, and we just break this off with a pair of pliers. The tang is there if if you're fitting these into a circuit board, these were originally made for like your car radio stuff, and you fit them into circuit boards, you can use the little pin there, drill a hole in your circuit board, and it stops it from rotating. But we don't use it, we just snap it off. Gone. So I'm going to try fitting it from the back and see how far it comes through. As you can see, it's not coming through at all. Now I need to see 3 or 4 threads poking through so that I can get my nut and washer on. So I need to route this rear cavity a bit deeper. And now because this one's on the lower part of the curve, I know this is going to be the deepest one. So we're going to fit these pots individually. Now I can see there's a hell of a lot to come off. I can't see any threads poking through from any of the pots. So I know I can go at least 3 mil. Now what I want to see is 3 to 4 threads poking out, which is about 3 mil. Okay. So if you can see 1 thread sticking out, then you need to go 2 mil. If you can see 2 threads sticking out, you need to go another 1 mil. So what I'm going to do here is, I know I can safely go 3 mil because I can't see any threads at all. So let's do that, 3 mil deeper. I'm going to use my longer cutter for this. Change the cutter to the longer one. Yeah, that's okay. We can have questions while I'm working.
Well, Clinton asked, do you check if the pot stems fit accordingly? But he asked that just before you remembered that you were...
Yes, obviously they're different sizes. So these are 10 mil hole. What I did when I originally drilled the holes, I drilled them all to 8 mil just to be on the safe side. And now I've widened them out. So you didn't get to see that. I did that this morning before we started. I drilled them out. So these are 10 mil and this one's 12 mil or ½ an inch. So I've already drilled the holes out to the right sizes. Let's put the cutter in.
So Green Mill 555, he's saying, this is a precision plunge routing, is it, what you're about to do?
Yes, this is one of the kind of scariest things you'll do probably, because at this point the body's finished, look, almost finished. So what can happen is if we stuff this up, is we can end up routing out the front of the guitar, making a hole where we don't want a hole. So we really want to avoid that. It does happen, it has happened. But if you stick to the sort of things I've been showing you, then you should be okay. If you used, for instance, like a Strat style slider switch, they can be a nightmare to fit into a carved top. So I wouldn't even attempt that as a beginner. Just an FYI, if you ever do try and fit a Strat style slider into a carved top, try and put it parallel to the side so that it will follow the curve. The curve will be the same depth. If you put a slider switch like this, then it's going to be impossible to fit because it goes through this part of the curve and you'll end up with a hole where you don't want a hole. So slider switch is not recommended for carved tops. A lot more tricky to fit. Can be done. You can get long slider switches. You can also get long pots as well with longer threads on. So that also makes it easier. But these are fine. A lot of these pots, they come with spring washers and stuff. I don't use the spring washer because wood's already springy. I would use the spring washer if I'm doing it into something that's not springy, like a scratch plate. But wood's okay, you don't really need the spring washer, so I don't use it. I just take it off. So let's fit these from the back then. Put the router in and take it down to touch the wood. If I come round here, you might be able to see me set the depth. I'm going to set the depth so that that's now touching, and I'm going to dial in 3 mil. 3 mil is the absolute maximum I would do at any time for this. I would usually do smaller steps, maybe 2 mil or even 1 mil at a time. So I'm going to do the whole thing 3 mil deeper. And then check again. So it's still nowhere near. It's not even coming out yet. No threads. Let's check them all just to be sure. Nowhere near.
Up a bit.
And nowhere near. So I reckon I can do another 3 mil. No problem. Let's do that. If you're watching me router and thinking, I'd like to have a go at that, we did do a whole live stream just on routing. So if you're not sure exactly what I'm doing here, I did go through it all step by step. If you go to the channel and search, you'll find I did a whole live stream just on routing, which you might find interesting. So let's just set it for another 3 mil. I always like to just reset it to 0. Just find it's better to do that. And away we go. One thing to watch out for when you're doing these cavities is that sometimes the router can actually fall into the cavity, into the hole there, the base. So you just have to be a bit careful. Yeah, point it down, Karen, and get both. Getting closer. So that's as much as I'm going to do on the whole thing now. I'm going to start fitting them individually. So let's just plop it in and have a look. It's almost level with the top now. So I think another 3 mil and that'll be done. Let's check the others. See, that one is actually poking through just a little bit, maybe 0.5 mil. So that one's probably 2.5 mil. And then this one, that's poking through a little bit as well. So probably a 2 mil or 2.5 mil on that one. So what we do is I pop it down like this and pencil, I pop the thing in and then draw around it. Can we see that? Just about. Yeah. So I'm just going to route that area there. Now it's difficult to see. I'm going to draw the other ones on as well while I'm at it. It's difficult to see while you're routing, but it's not impossible. I'm going to show you how you can see it. And another thing to note is that look at the footprint on this switch. It's tiny. It's just a little circle that's just bigger than the hole, really. So I just need to make a little circle for this one. The footprint on these is a bit bigger. I'll show you what I mean. If I pop that in, you can see where it sits there. All I've got to do is a little circle that's just big enough for that. My pencil's gubbed. Like that. Just a little circle. So as I say, it's difficult to see while you're routing. I'm going to show you how I see it. What we have to do is we have to do the one that's furthest away from you. I'm zooming out so we can get channel. That's it. So I'm going to do this one first, right? It's the furthest one away from me. When I'm doing this one, I'll turn it round. And when I'm doing this one, I'll turn it round. So it's the furthest away from me. Because what I can do then is I can look underneath. The only way to see this is to look underneath the router. So let's try and set it up where you can see, where we can all see. So I'm going to stand here and I'm going to do this one that's furthest away from me. And can we see in there? Yeah?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Can you get in? Can you zoom in a little bit more?
Right, I think that's as good as we'll get. How's it looking?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, so here I'm going to set the depth. We're going to go 2 mil to be on the safe side. I'd rather do 2 cuts, 2 shallow cuts than 1 really deep one. So 2 mil. And then if it's not right, I'll do another mil. Okay. So very carefully, I'm going to turn on, plunge in, do my cut, wait till it stops spinning before I wave it about. Test it from that side just to make sure that you've done a bit big enough. And then have a look at the other side. Now we've got some thread coming through. We've got 3 or 4 threads. That'd be all right, actually. It looks good. Test it. Lovely. One thing to bear in mind is if you're spraying this guitar, there's going to be a certain amount of finish build up there. You might want to go maybe 1/2 mil deeper. I think I'm going to go 1/2 mil deeper just to be on the safe side, and then carry on and do the others. 1/2 mil deeper. quick check. Beautiful. Gorgeous. 3 or 4 threads, that's looking perfect. So I'm going to go ahead now and just do the others. I wasn't going to bore you with it, but it needs doing, doesn't it? Might as well just do it.
They're saying it's a good job Roland's back at work because it's a bit scary.
Oh, has he gone?
Well, I think he's keeping an eye on it.
I need to reset the depth, right, folks? So take it down to touch the wood. I'm going to reset this to 0. And 2 mil to be on the safe side. So I don't know if you can see in there. Yep, another mil, maybe 1.5 mil. Another mil, maybe 1.5 mil.
Okay.
Beautiful. Last one.
Can I just read out the comment there?
This one's a little bit more awkward. It's going to be harder to see, but it's still the same technique.
Can I just say something? Green Mirror says, could you get a camera shot of the back side with pots to look at the route and where the solder pins clearance?
Okay, I'll do this cut then and I'll show you that. I'm resetting the depth again to 0. I'm going to go 2 millimeters to be on the safe side. This one's just a really small little circle. What do we think? Another mil. I'm going to go another mil. And then I'll show you your shot from the back. One mil. So it's tricky to see, but you can actually look underneath. So I'm just looking through there, exactly where you guys are looking. So there's our cavity. Pop that through.
Down a bit more.
Check it. Lovely. So what you wanted to see was clearance at the back. As you see, I just did it roughly. You don't need to. It doesn't. It looks a bit untidy in there, but what we normally do is we paint that cavity with a shielding paint, and neatens it all up once it's been painted black. There is an alternative way to fit pots onto a carved top, and that would be with an angled, you would use an angled cover plate. Cover plate jig pattern. So when we routed this, if that was on an angle, then that's how Les Pauls are fitted. But your PRSs and the old Eggles that we used to make, and the ones that we do in here, are all done with a dish at the front. Beautiful dishes at the front, and individually fitted from the back. So as you can see, it does add a fair amount of work. Not just carving the top, but also fitting the pots. I usually put these, by the way, who was it who asked that question?
Green Mirror 555.
So Green Mirror 555. I normally put the tangs kind of facing towards the centre, so we can keep the wires sort of like nice and short and neat. So something like that for that one, and that for that one. So, you know, the amount of clearance, it just needs a little bit of clearance all the way around, maybe 1/8 of an inch, something like that. And there we go. Here endeth the lesson. So I've got some questions before we stop. Let's do the questions.
Okay, so Simon's channel has literally just joined us.
Hi, Simon's channel.
And he said, did you mention hole size and depth? I think he's inquiring about that, so because he's only just joined us. So what about the hole? Can you just recap on that?
Okay, well, it is a very good question. If you go back through the live streams that we've done, you will see when I actually drill these holes. I did when I was making the body. I drilled them all to 8mm nominal depth, because the smallest pots that we use have got an 8mm shaft. And then what I do is I just widen them out to whatever I've decided to use. So in this case, 2 10mm holes and a 12mm hole for the switch. Obviously it depends on your switches that you've chosen. So you'll drill a test hole in a piece of scrap and test it first. Test it in your piece of scrap to make sure it fits. Now, as far as the depth goes, what you've got to do is rewind and watch this whole stream again, because we fit them first from the front to make these dishes, and then what we did was we routed each one individually from the back. So I cannot give you an actual depth, because it depends on the length of the pot you've got. It depends on the thickness of your body blank, and it depends on how much you've carved off the top, and all that adds up. So the final depth we're looking for is we keep routing deeper just a little bit at a time for each individual pot, and then we check constantly, and we're looking for 3 to 4mm of threads coming out the top, just like that. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, so then that leads to, so Green Mirror 555 is saying, so I guess the angle route on a Les Paul would leave you with crooked pot knobs.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So the pots on a Les Paul are all kind of wonky, slightly wonky. You will notice that if you look, because the actual cavity is routed on an angle. Just see if I've got a cavity pattern to show you. Let me just grab a pattern and I'll show you what I mean.
Simon's channel, for some reason your messages keep getting held in review. I don't know if you've got a setting.
What, on YouTube?
Yeah.
Strange. Right, so that's a cover plate pattern, and what I would do is just prop it up at one end. I don't do this, to be honest, because I find it's a little bit imprecise. When I do my dishes, I can fit them precisely individually, and I like the fact that they stick up straight rather than being on a funny angle. So yeah, what you can do though is make your cover plate and just make it like angled, so it's thinner at one end. You could work out different ways to do that. We won't get into that right now, but it is possible. Like I say, I prefer my dish method, doing the dishes. Okay, another question.
Roland's back. He's managed to.
Hi, Roland. What do you think then?
His work. What he said is, why did you not flatten the whole cavity rather than making the little?
Right, good question. Because the top is curved, you see, and so if we go to full depth, there's a chance that you route through the top. If you look, you can actually see in that hole. Look, see how thin the top is there. You can actually see there's only like 3 or 4 mil left. So the top's already quite thin, and this part of the top is lower than that, if you see. So if we did the whole cavity to that, there is the danger that you route through, and you'll end up with holes where you don't want holes. So that's why we fit them individually. Hopefully that made some kind of sense.
Roland says it looks glorious.
I concur. Yep.
Simon's channel says, is there a video of finishing, possibly sanding and grain filling?
Okay, so sanding's coming up maybe Saturday or a week Saturday. We've still got clamping and gluing and sanding and soldering to do. So there's 4 techniques that we use all the time that I want to show you guys. So yeah, what this is I'm trying to show you guys all the basic techniques that we use before we get to 5,000 subscribers. I don't think I'm going to do it because it's looming. We're almost there. 5,000 subscribers is just a gnat's knack out away now. So I think you guys are going to beat me to it. But what I'm trying to do is start off by showing you all the basic techniques. See, once you've got these down, then you can go away and you can make tens, hundreds of guitars, all sorts of fancy ones, whatever you want. But that's my plan, is we're going to get up to 5,000 subscribers with the basic techniques. And then after that, now I've got some plans. We're going to be upping our game. So yeah, so if you're not subscribed, make sure you do subscribe if this is what you're interested in. And also like it and share it and all that kind of YouTubey stuff, because it does really help. It really helps spread the word. 'Cause we're quite proud of what we do here, aren't we, Carol?
We are, very actually.
And because we can't run the workshop courses, it's kind of all we've got at the moment. So we do really appreciate you watching, and especially if you leave a comment and a question, that's absolutely brilliant. I think we've got a couple more questions before we finish.
So Green Mirror 55 said, and your knobs, it must be in response to something you said, and your knobs would be slightly different height to what your hand would feel when adjusting the tone and volume. That must have been in relation to the dishes and the Les Paul. Did you get that?
Yeah. I thought I'd got a knob out actually, but I didn't. So yeah, there's lots of different types of knobs. You can get different height knobs. If you think it's a bit low, just get a taller knob, or vice versa. But yeah, I've never had a guy say, I like this guitar, but the knobs are too short or anything like that. So it's not something that tends to be an issue. None of them are what those. The only thing is that occasionally, if you've got a tremolo, you might want to consider the position of your knobs. If your tremolo arm, there is a potential for your tremolo arm to catch on it. So this is one of the reasons why, if you're producing a guitar in a factory, you would obviously make a prototype first. You would you'd go to the nth degree checking everything, including things like that, by actually making a prototype, an actual guitar that can be played. So yeah.
So Jim McMillan says, is a gnat's knacker the same measurement as a bee's dick?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's metrical imperial, it's the same sort of thing.
Okay. And Roland says, what's the best strategy to convince his his partner that the kitchen table is a perfect place to build a guitar. There is no strategy.
Just go on the blog and you'll see Russ has already put a picture up of somebody's made an alteration to their dining table. A guitar-shaped alteration.
Okay, you've got two last quick things, right? EP asked...
Carol's the best person to answer that, and she said there is no answer. I'd say it's easier to say sorry than to ask for permission.
Whoa! Right, we're on the thing. Hey, Carly. Carly's in the house. Right. EP asked, has anyone ever routed through the front? He asked this really early on. Has anybody routed through?
Not in here,
right.
But I can tell you that we did in the factory. In the factory that shall not be named, right?
That you have named already.
They had a great idea one day. Is their top-end guitar, right? Google this. The JS Legend was their top-end guitar. Designed, well, in part by Big Jim Sullivan. The Legend, hence the name. And then one day somebody ordered one with the slider switch, like I was warning you about earlier. A Strat style slider switch. So for some reason they gave it to me and Darren Tolley, who was the other apprentice. Yeah, give it to the apprentices to do. The hardest thing you could possibly imagine to do in the factory. So they gave it to me and Darren to do. And we trashed 3 of them. Yeah, we trashed 3 Big Jim Sullivan Legend guitars in one day. Trying to fit these switches. They just wouldn't fit. So in the end, you've got to say, well, that's a design flaw, isn't it? Don't blame the apprentices. It's a design flaw. Putting a slider switch on a carved top is one of the hardest things that we do here. One thing that you can do is you can kind of make a groove, like a long version of this, that it fits into. We've done that. That's one way to do it. Another version is not to carve your top so severely. And another version, the best thing is to make sure that it goes parallel to the edge there. And that should give you your best chance of success. What they did was they put the switch on an angle. There's just no way to fit it. If you imagine a slider switch fitted normally into a scratch plate, scratch plates are only 1/8 of an inch thick. And they fit perfect. Well, you try doing that into a top like that, you're leaving just 1/8 of an inch of wood. It's difficult at the best of times, but if you've got it on an angle, it's just impossible. It has to be at a flat area on the front and on the back, 1/8 of an inch thick. So we do it from time to time. It can be done, but I don't enjoy it. And yeah, bear that in mind. We once trashed, me and Darren, we were trying to make we'd made an angled cover plate and we tried to angle the back, but we just couldn't get it accurate enough. So 3 guitars later, they decided maybe it wasn't such a good idea.
Oh, on that score, Clinton in Hawaii said that he actually routed through the front himself because his router base came off.
Dear, oh dear.
But
oh yeah.
He plugged it, so he
Yeah, there's always a way to fix it. I think probably have had ones where we've just come through and you can just see a bit of a line coming through. What I've done in the past is made a piece of wood the same shape as your cover plate and just glued it in with epoxy. And that's worked. So yeah, now I think about it, I think I probably have, or somebody on the course probably has routed through, because I do remember gluing in a piece of wood at the back there just to make the piece of wood appear thicker.
Got some thin ones, haven't we?
Yeah, and gluing it in with epoxy makes it all nice and stronger.
And did we have a fake tally?
I tell you what, I did have once.
Tally plate?
I might be thinking of, yeah, I had one guy who really wanted his jack socket on the front. And the jack sockets we were using at the time didn't have much thread. So we ended up with a very thin piece of wood. I advised him against it, but he went for it anyway. It was fine until he was at his jam session. Somebody trod on his cable and it pulled the lead, and it actually cracked the top. So he brought the guitar back, and we did that. What I said was we glued in a piece of wood at the back, and I glued it in with epoxy, which gives it a nice and strong. Even if you don't get a perfect fit, it's still a nice strong gap filling glue. So that's what we did in that case. Yeah, my memory isn't wonderful, folks. So
Well, there's a couple of last questions. One is Michael Aber is asking, is Darren still practicing? So what happened to you both? What happened to the apprentices? Were you in bother? Okay.
it's quite a sad story, actually. I don't know if we should tell it on the internet.
Probably not. Not at the end of a beautiful session. So we'll leave that for another day. And then
Darren's fine,
Darren Bagpress has got a question for you.
to my knowledge.
And what he said is, no, can the switcher that you showed him at the beginning, can it sync sound and pictures? That was the last question of the day.
Yes, it can.
So that's it.
No, this is a Stream Deck, what I showed you earlier. So this is just, this is connected to the laptop, and the laptop is connected to the switcher. So with this, I can control the switcher. So this isn't the switcher. This is a separate control unit for the switcher. So Carol can use the switcher. Go on, Carol, give it a switch. Carol can switch the cameras. Yeah, that's it. Ta.
Is that enough?
Yeah.
Sure.
And then I can do it as well. That's me doing it now.
And me.
Yeah, and we're now fighting over control. So if you're doing it on your own, Darren, or rather if you've got two people doing it, you might want to share the control, get something like this. Maybe I should do a session where I show you all the gear that we're using for this, and to bring you this amazing production with 4 cameras and all sorts of other stuff. Yeah, so it's good fun, isn't it? Keeps me out of trouble, and hopefully you guys find something interesting in it. So I think we're done. We're about done. I'll have a little sip of tea. If you've got any final questions, now's the time. Right, so remember, guys, most important thing, as you saw, is to check twice and cut once. Just have a last look at that. There you go. So I'll see you on Saturday. On Saturday, we're probably going to be doing the sanding of this. So yeah, someone was asking about finishing course. The finishing course is definitely coming. Doesn't exist yet, but if you join up on the premium courses on the site, there's a build your own electric and build your own acoustic, where there is a finishing section. So it's a basic finish like this. You can do an oiled finish, or you can do a satin finish, where I demonstrate finishing from a can. But the full-on finishing course is also going to include using a compressor and proper spray gun equipment and all that kind of stuff. It will also include using different colours, double staining, fake binding, and whatever else we can think of to put in, sunbursts. And what we do is we make like the basic course, and then I can build on that forever. The beauty of this online academy thing is that it's not like a book where you have to print 10,000 copies and then maybe next year or the year after you print another 10,000. With this, if I make a mistake, I can correct it instantly. Or if I want to add something to the course, we can do that without having to reissue the whole thing. So it's a work in progress. The basics are all there. You can design and build your own electric or acoustic completely from scratch. I'm amazed, to be honest, at what you guys have all been coming up with. You don't have to stick to the basics. You can make pretty much anything you want once you've got the basic methods down, as I tell you. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, EP says, did they get rid of the guitars or did they repair them? And Carly, who's watching in Australia, says...
Guitars went in the skip.
Oh, and Carly said, can we get shirts online?
Yeah, T-shirts are available online. There is a little bit of supply chain issues at the moment, So we might not have all sizes and all colours, but I know that there's more on the way. We've sold out of aprons as well, for instance, but I know that there's more on the way. So yeah, head over to the site, buy your t-shirts, and thank you so much for you guys who've watched right till the end, and we totally appreciate all your support. This is my life, this is what we do, and without your support we'd be out on the streets. So yeah, so this is all down to you guys, much appreciated. So check twice, cut once. See you on Saturday, every Wednesday and Saturday 1 p.m. we'll be here and hopefully see you there. All right, thanks folks. Check twice, cut once. Like, subscribe.